All right, so this is sort of a first for me doing it, a recording of me designing something. This isn't really going to be like a straight up full design of things, but you may have seen today, depending on when you watch this, or in the previous days or even weeks, I have been talking about this idea of this thing called Light Live or just live RPGs in general. This is something that came about as a result of talking to Jeremy Gage about this sort of stuff. Jeremy is my like go-to buddy for like brain blasts and just awesome ideas and brainstorming. So Jeremy sort of unlocked this idea of what to do with light in terms of kind of future support for it, because this is sort of a reflection on the first season pass here for light, which is called Spark, and it just released the third module today, third of four modules, with the general sort of timeline of writing something and releasing something once a month, so one module per month. And that's been fine, right? Like that's very doable for me. The problem is it loses momentum. It becomes difficult to like keep people aware of the fact that they bought the season pass. Like they might have bought it 3 months ago because I was doing pre-orders and stuff. And now like they've forgotten that Spark exists and like these modules are just going off into the void. So that whole thing sparked this idea of talking about light as a live game. And that comes from sort of an inspiration of Destiny, because Destiny is the inspiration for light in the first place. So what I want to talk about today is sort of my first like putting like words to the page of what light live might actually be. And so none of this is like hard set in stone or anything like that. I might end up throwing away all of this and taking a totally different approach. But this is something that kind of came about from my brainstorming with Jeremy, and so I just wanted to kind of record it because I don't stream. So I just thought it might be interesting for folks who wanted to just see what this process is like when I do it sitting down. So if this is horrible, then it's horrible, and we'll only do one. If it's cool, then cool. I'll make some more of them. But let's take a shot at this. So, Light Live is supposed to be a live RPG. And so, I guess, first of all, is sort of establishing what a live RPG is exactly. So, to me, essentially, it means it's a digital only, or it's like essentially digital. There might be some sort of like deluxe print at the end, like in a yearly cycle sort of thing. But for the most part, a live RPG is going to be something that's digital only. And basically, that means we're doing like consistent patching and updating of the game. Because, so like, the comparison is to Destiny, right? So, Destiny's a live game, right? It's a game. What are they called? Like games for service or whatever they're called now, where it's getting patched regularly with hot fixes and things like that, but also just like content is being dripped to you on a weekly basis. So the Destiny you buy today is going to be different than the Destiny that's around a month from now and 2 months from now and things like that, because new things will be in, some things will be removed. There will be like events that are running. And so it's supposed to feel like this like evolving, changing world, or in this case, evolving, changing game, RPG. So that's the basic premise of what I'm going for here, is that I want to essentially like bring light to a digital only space. There's the prints that are out there, but like that's just the prints with like the core rules and stuff like that. There's not there's no like omnibus year one because there hasn't even been a year one. There's no Prince of Spark yet, which is the first thing. So there's an opportunity here to like pivot light into this direction. So I want to support light as this possible thing called like light live, this live game, which might mean like just light the base thing just becomes light live, and it's supported through things like expansions and season passes. Light live might be its own thing. Um, on top, like so, there's the core, there's light live, and then there's the season passes. That gets tricky because you start to fragment a lot, and then depending on how long this goes, like there might be some idea of Light Live being this thing that becomes associated with raids. And I think that would be if I went with the middle option of live being its own thing. So let's talk about what the kind of the basic premise of this is. And this, again, huge credit to Jeremy Gage for inspiring this. Like this is birthed from his mind, his brilliant mind. So make sure that you're supporting Jeremy out there. I'll make sure like links to his stuff are in the notes below because he's great. Um, so what is Light Live? So let's think about what Destiny does. Destiny to be live does what exactly? What does Destiny do to make you want to come back again and again and again? It is. Let me actually just put this up here instead. In order for Destiny to be live, right? What is going on? Well, there's like daily bounties and stuff like that. There's also weekly bounties, or there were for a while. I think they like just took them out recently. But there are like weekly changes, and those can be like strike playlist has like new modifiers. There's like a nightfall, which is going to have specific loot to it. And there's going to be things like new Crucible playlists, which isn't super relevant to this because I'm not doing PvP in Light, at least not yet. But that's just a way that the weekly stuff changes. And then if there's like story stuff, the story is now being like drip fed for the most part. That's how story is progressing in Destiny, rather than it being big wholesale package things. You sort of like see the story evolve on a weekly basis. So when Tuesday hits and we do the weekly reset, there's a new small piece of the chat, like a new chapter of the story that comes through. So that's sort of what it means. And so other things besides like dailies and weeklies is like there's loot pool, right? There's a loot pool that is changing. It adds things. They were removing things, sunsetting things, although they're kind of moving away from that, and I think that's a good idea. But removing could be good with a digital only RPG. Maybe. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I haven't decided if that's a good or bad thing yet. But so there's this loot pool that's changing all the time. You're getting new armor, you're getting new guns, and that's exciting, right? That's what gets you to keep playing Destiny. Is sure, like the new campaign story comes out like every 3 months or whatever, and there's that is interesting. But for the most part, you're coming back because every week you want to grind out the playlists to get your better gear so that your light level goes up and you become slightly more powerful this week than you were last week. And then you do that again and again and again, getting those numbers as big as possible. And then new season starts and you got to do it all over again, right? It's a grind, but like for me, I love that. I eat that kind of stuff up. That's why I play Destiny and Warframe and all these looter shooters, is because I like to see the green numbers. I like to see the numbers go up, and I like it. Just feels good, right? There you get that little bit of dopamine drip. So, what does that mean for Light as a TTRPG exactly? The basic premise of what Light Live would be, regardless of sort of the path it takes, is that it would be weeklies. These strikes, you get like a strike prompt at the start of every week. And the strike will have like, it's a basic premise sort of thing. It's not going to be super fully detailed. But today, Fuel was released, and Fuel is the the supplement that I've been waiting to release that gives sort of form to strikes and a little bit to loot and advancement and stuff like that. And so the structure is there now in game. Like we have that module. So this would be like giving a basic premise. So we're talking like enemies, like the strike type, uh, maybe the faction, and then like a little story prompt of sorts. So everybody gets like this strike prompt, like Guardians, this or Beacons. This is the thing that you're doing this week. This is your thing that you need to do. And while it's still in my head, why am I doing this in the first place? To keep momentum. That's a big thing here. So I'm going to come back to the weeklies because this is on my mind now. Is keeping momentum on Light right now. 4 modules in 4 months is slow. Feels really slow. The month, like, a month between modules feels like a long time. This for me, like I itch to like just put stuff out, and if I'm sitting on something for weeks, like it hurts me. But then on top of that, like people just forget, right? They forget they own the season pass, for example, or just in the itch, TTRPG scene ethos, like or like just the scene things are like flash in the pan. They're so flash in the pan sort of thing. Like if something is hot for like when it gets first released, and then very small percentage of things have lasting power. Everything else sort of just it's like, wow, cool. This is a neat new thing. Everybody looks at it, and then we go look at the other new shiny thing. And then you get the big games that hit every once in a while, and everyone's like, oh, this is the one that we'll actually play in the first place, or it'll stick around for months or years. Um, so what I want is I want Light to be one of those games. I really like Light, and so I want it to have sticking power. And so that means I need it to be. I need you to remember it. I need you to remember it, which means I need to remind you that it exists, which means it needs like constant support. Now, because Light is a small game and it's intentionally designed as a modular game, that's possible. If I was making a 250-page book and I released it, it would be a huge pain in the ass to like keep supporting it. It would not be fun to do, right? Just wouldn't do it. So, but because technically, like the core rules fit on one piece of paper, um, it would be it'd be easy to do or easier to do. I'm gonna just put a thing here: update core rules question mark, just because that idea crossed my mind and I want to come back to that. But that's why I'm doing this. This is the the why, right? Keep momentum on Light. So back to what Light Live would be. Every week, a strike prompt would get posted Sunday, Monday, whatever, whenever it is. And you would basically get a message. And, the idea is maybe it would be like on like a light Twitter account, attach it to the Gila RPG's Discord. I don't feel like making a light Discord as its own thing. I would just make it in the Gila RPG's Discord. I don't know why I would make a new one. Um, this in this account, and maybe a message in the Discord would say like, "Boom, okay, Beacons, this is your task this week. Um, the Windswept are moving in on a location. We think that they're trying to find some tech that was abandoned from the Era of Dawn. Go in. This isn't necessarily like heavy engagement mission. We need you to go in and get access to that tech before they do, or if they get their hands on it, take it from them and bring it back home. Cool. You got the basic idea of like who you're fighting or who you're dealing with, the type of mission. And then like a faction would give it to you. And right now the game has 3 factions. It technically has 4 if you think about Vulcan as a faction, but like there's 3. Um, and so like that it would use the existing factions so that you could use the lighthouse module from the core rules to like give boons and cool stuff that's faction supported, but probably come up with like some new factions too as things come along. But like, hey, okay, the Veil faction, which is all about sort of research and espionage and intel and stuff like that, they might be the ones that give you this prompt. And so boom, you see that message at the beginning of the week, and then it would be, and maybe there's like a little bit more flavor text to it just so that it feels more. I'm going to write it down bot here in just a second. I'll come back to that. But the idea then is that this thing has a basic premise, and then it has like modifiers. And you'll see modifiers are in the thing that was released today in Fuel, but it'll be modifiers. And so these are things that make the strike unique, difficult, interesting, etc. Right? There are modifiers. They don't have to be the modifiers that are in Fuel. They can be like truly made unique to this scenario. Like if it's about gathering intel, like the intel starts to like deteriorate once it's taken from the computer, right? Like there's or like it's some material that literally it has a half-life. And so once you take it, you got to get out of there. Some interesting twist, right? And the goal here, the point is with each one of these strikes, every strike is going to have a unique piece of loot attached to it, right? So think about the nightfalls in Destiny. In Destiny, nightfall strikes have like there's usually strike playlists in Destiny have been like kind of fucked for a while. Like strikes should have their own loot pool in general, but they don't. But like you can try and get good scores in the nightfalls at least to try and get decent loot. Um, and so think about it as this way. So every week you've got a new prompt, something to do, some new way to engage with light, some mission that you all can go on. So if you like get super into light and you play it every week, there's your adventure prompt every week if you want it. But the thing is, if you do it and you like do it with like all the modifiers or something like that, you can get a cool piece of loot. Um, and I think the loot isn't in the prompt. Like it might be alluded to, but the premise is that like you would check in. Maybe I don't know. I'm still not sold on like the idea of checking in or just having the loot in the prompt. Like if it's just in the prompt, then people aren't going to do anything about it. They're gonna be like, okay, cool. We have a new gun that we can use. We didn't have to go do the strike. And they even if they check in, they're not going to have to do anything because there's no idea. Like there's no proof. The idea is that they would check in on Discord. Be like, okay, we did it. We did the strike. It was hard as hell. This is how it turned out. And then I just send you like a little screenshot or whatever of what the gun is, and you get it. Again, you don't have to prove it. It's a digital RPG. I don't give a shit if you like lie to me or you just want to use the gun. Right? But it's the sort of incentive, right? We want the unique piece of thing loot to be an incentive. Um, get cool stuff that you couldn't have before. Because the basic strike has loot drops and stuff like that, and you advance your beacons and see those incentives exist. But now like you can go get cool ass loot. You can get the stuff that like fits your play style. And if you look at that week's prompt and you look at the loot and it's like a scout rifle and nobody in your group likes using scouts, then cool. You don't have to do the prompt that week, right? You just skip it and then problem solved. Like don't play light that week or play your own strike. You can do whatever you want. But this is a way to give sort of live support to the game. Now how is that going to work, right? Like, am I going to do it, or is a bot going to do it? And that kind of depends on the ultimate decision that I want. Like, I could do a bot with this. I could feed it tables that have enemy types, uh, strike types, whatever factions, and things like that. And then I would have to. I would still need to like write the prompt of some kind. I'm not a programmer, so I couldn't possibly think about trying to train a bot to like write the prompt as well. I think I can get it to pull things from a set of tables, but that's it. But at least it's like randomly generated, and it can even generate the gun too, right? If like the loot at the end of the thing is a gun, it can do the random rolls uh on the Vulcan module. Just make it like roll on like 3 tags or something, so it gets a super cool, weird, unique gun, and boom, you have it. It doesn't make unique perks, so like the limitation is uh, either I still need to do stuff, and unique things you can't do that unless I just feed it that unique thing every week. So that's the tricky thing. So otherwise, if I do it, and like I could do all this, it's totally doable. It's work, right? It's work, but it's an adventure prompt. Like it's like me just rolling on a few tables or coming up with like a simple adventure prompt. I think the hardest work is making the gun every week, making an interesting gun or piece of loot, and so like that's the thing is like a loot pool, like Just guns? Right now, armor is like it's just like a one thing. You just have the one piece of armor. It's not like individual pieces. Does it require armor to be broken up so that there's broken up? So that it so there's more things that I can make other than just guns? Are there things that are not gear that would or that could be cool, right? Something to consider. Something to consider. Um, that's the basic premise of what I'm thinking for this. So this would be something that could be done weekly, right? You just get every week, boom, here's your new thing to do with light. The question is, how does that relate to like how light currently functions with like the season pass and everything like that? So we're gonna get to that in just a second, but here's here's the thing that I need to talk about, which is like updating the core rules. It's something I've always wanted to do. Uh, It just needs to be done. There are things that need to be tightened up, things that be changed. I think ultimately what I want to make it is you can build your own beacon. Like I'd like that to be the case. You still choose from the three classes, but you choose what powers you want to do. Um, Customizing your character between the three classes. So like you could be like, I want to be a Colossus, and I want this melee power. I want this perk, and I'm gonna take like two pyre powers because I feel like I really want to just be like a fire guy. And then I'm gonna take 1 point in like or one power from the nether thing because I want maybe like a little bit of control stuff with like bubble or something like that. Now you've built your own Colossus, and that's neat. And then you have the capacity to add more powers to your character. And that would be cool, right? And this, I have notes about this, so I'm not going to get super into this, but I think doing Light Live would require not like a reset, but like it would require like a new thing that says like, all right, Light originally releases this strange little like multi-piece module thing. Here's the core experience. Updated rules, really sewing together like the core modules or necessary modules so that you have that. And that's kind of what this whole first season has been about, is like putting together the stuff that I think feels like so necessary to the game. And then the future modules and stuff like that can truly be modular, unnecessary, like not unnecessary, but like you don't have to have them. You can plug them in when you want them. So I think Light Live would require something like this. Something that I was going to do anyway when I was going to do Light in the Kickstarter that's coming up for Frame. Um, but I decided to pause on all of this because this is interesting and different from Frame. And so it only makes sense to do it as its own separate thing. Okay. I have no idea how long this is going on. So I'm just going to keep going because I've got the energy. So I want to talk about what this would look like in two formats. And I think when I get like the basic structure of these, I'll stop for today. I'll see what folks think about this generally, and then sort of go from there. Jeremy and I want to talk about live RPGs as just a general concept soon, which might be helpful for figuring out what I'm going to do with all of this. Um, but here's the basic premise. If I wanted to do Light Live and I wanted to keep it involved with the current, I'm going to, oh God, scattered brain, right? As raids, like meaning it's part of the core experience. Um, I wanted to keep doing season passes. One of the biggest concerns that I had was the momentum, right? That seasons are slow. So one thing, one solution I had before we got into this live thing was I'll just do it faster. I'll do four modules in 2 months. So you do two modules a month. It's doable. Again, it's doable. I can do that. But it's not like the perfect solution. So what if I still kept it to 4 modules across 4 months? Follows this basic premise. So here's the timeline. 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 Start of month. Ugh, slow mind, slow typing day. Start of month, season pass module drops. New season pass module drops. Here's the new cool thing. And I truly think like after this season, after Spark, once I get into the next season, the modules are going to feel much more optional, much more flavorful and different. Like I feel like right now the Spark modules are like still part of like the core essential like necessities of the game, which is good. Like I'm glad I'm putting the modules out because I feel like the game feels better with their existence. But I also want to do like weird, crazy things with light, and I haven't really done that so far. So boom, some new module drops. You then have 3 weeks of live, which means you get a strike each week with the unique loot. You're doing the prompts. It's me. It's a bot. No idea who's doing it. Somebody's doing this. Uh, you're checking in on Discord. I want this to kind of help create like a light community. So like finding people to be in your fire team, finding people to be in your squad to play light with you. If you're like, I really want to play the strike this week, my group can't play. Does anybody want to like? Can I join somebody's game and play the strike this week because I want to earn the loot? Again, you could just lie. You could just lie and just say I did it. I don't care. Um, but it would be cool to create like a community where we're like doing like an LFG sort of thing, but not like the nightmare that is Destiny's LFG, and like share experiences and stuff like that. That'd be cool, right? I'd like that. That'd be neat. Um, you get 3 weeks of that, and like what the point is that they should incorporate incorporate that month's module. So if something drops and it brings like a whole new enemy type, for example, then those enemies should be showing up in the strikes that week, right? If it brings like a new weapon type, like that weapon type should be at least one of the week's loot. um, if it brings in like new powers, the strike should be focused about on the beacons getting those powers. Like like so like cryo is in Destiny. So like the strikes would be involved in like you can do 3 strikes and one for each class, right? So like first week is about any colossi out there that want to get the cryo equivalent power set. You gotta form up with a fire team, go out, and if you accomplish this, your unique loot is you have access to this new set of powers, right? Boom, new subclass available. You do that every week for like Stalker and Witch. You can do it all in 1 week too, and then make other things for the other strikes. But that's the basic premise: is that it would incorporate that month's module, but then also I think it would be cool if it hinted at what is to come. So if a new enemy type is coming up in the next month's module, then you get like a strike prompt, like the third strike prompt, the last one. It adds like a stat block to an enemy type that you've never seen before, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" Uh, and you fight it in the strike, and then next module, boom, here's that whole new enemy faction. Here's all of that thing you fought. It's got a whole army behind it, and now you see all of that. So this is kind of how you incorporate it into the season pass, right? And so if you get the season pass, you know that you're also getting the live experience with the season pass. Um, and then and this is regardless of if I do it in the raid or whatever. So I think I'm just gonna put it up here. Like this is it makes the game patchable, which is really good, right? You can update rules every week, 2 weeks, monthly, right? If something just feels wrong, feels off after playing it, and people are like, actually, this power is like way OP, or this power sucks, it's not fun to use, we buff it. And because it's a live game and it's digital only, remember all this stuff, that's easy to do. That's really easy to do. So it's patchable, it's updatable. And then you just repeat timeline. So the next month, new module, 3 weeks of live that are incorporating the module, hinting at the next thing. You do that for 4 months. That's the season experience. Then you just repeat the season experience eventually, right? Then you go do 4 more months. Now the timeline, I don't know. Like, still unsure about 4 and 4. I don't know. I got to think about that in terms of what I want to do. That's the basic premise if I did it as a season pass. This has been going on a little while, so I'm going to just do the raid thing relatively quickly, and then I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna brew on it. I'm gonna let you all think about it. Here's the other thing. Here's the other idea. Is this is uh, unconnected to the season pass. What if every month is a raid? Okay, a raid. So at the start of the month, there's a more detailed prompt that comes out, and it says like, here is a big problem. We have to deal with it. But you can't deal with it right away. It's not dealt with right away. The raid isn't done in a singular session, but instead is made of 3 to 4 strikes that are sewn together, that have a unified story, that you're kind of doing the different parts. And then, like, this works out perfectly because there are 4 types of strike in the thing that I released today. So you could technically do like one type of strike for each week of the raid. And so as you play through the strikes, eventually if you do all 4 strikes, you will have completed the raid. Um, do them all, you complete the raid. Really nailing my typing right now. That's the premise. So what is different about this necessarily? Well, it's not connected to the season pass. The season pass could be its own separate thing. This could just be part of the core experience. Like, this is just could be the new normal for Light, and like live is just like part of the new default part of the default Light experience slash purchase. Like, if you've bought Light, you know that this is just something that you can always look forward to. That's kind of cool. I'd probably raise the price of Light if I was going to do that. This is being financially supported by the season pass. This is being supported by a game that a lot of people already own, so I would want to bump the price so that it's getting supported a little bit. Bump price, just to note for future Spencer if he does this. But, and here's the last kind of thing I'll note about this, is that this would have a raid loot pool, right? So, like, this raid is, I don't know, it's centered on the theme of, well, let's just say, like, it's centered on the Corvus faction, right? So this whole raid is about the Corvus faction. So you are getting like armor or I don't know, ornaments. Like, is that cool? Is that relevant? I don't know. Ornaments, transmogs, and then like guns, right? That are themes or related to the theme. So you want to like collect the whole thing. You want the whole raid loot pool. And so these are then spread out across the strikes. So, if there's like 4 things, then you put 1 thing in each week. If there's more than that, like, let's say there's 5 things. You put 1 thing in each of the 4 weeks. And then the 5th thing is you get, if you did all 5 weeks, like a bonus piece of loot if you if you do the whole thing. And I think that would be pretty cool. And so you just do this every month. Every month, come up with a list of like fun loot. And this is something that like anybody could do then, right? Like, I could outsource this too. I could be like, hey, here's some money, make a pool of loot, write some adventure prompts for like a basic premise of a raid, and then every week you need to write and release the story prompt with some of the, all this stuff that I mentioned up here. You just do that every week. If you're doing all this, you do this every week. Like, this is your month to write a raid, and then I'd pay you to do that, right? I'd incentivize people to do it. But like, So that's a good point. I need to write that down. Guests can do this, which is cool. It's harder to incorporate them if I do it in the season pass, right? If it's in the season pass, then I'm making it. But if it's like part of the live light experience, it almost kind of makes it community driven more, question mark, or they're like involved more. There's more ability to homebrew stuff, or you're encouraged to do it, maybe. And like that's ultimately like a thing I just want to mention here, like a big goal is like momentum, community, and hackability. I don't know. Like that last part is a loose thought. It's something that Jeremy was mentioning to me like just before I recorded this. So like the idea of like trying to create a community that can like all contribute to this process. I can see it happening with the raid thing. I can't see it necessarily with the season pass thing, unless somebody wanted to make their own season. Like that'd be kind of cool, right? I wouldn't. I don't know. People make their own seasons. Why not? Right? Light all of my games. Like I just want people to make shit for them. They can just make whatever they want. Um, so I think that would be cool. Okay, so that's the basic premise. This has been going on long enough. This is the basic idea. I want to convert Light to a live game, which means it's essentially a digital only, regularly updated game. And like by regularly, I mean like weekly updates, or you're getting something every week that expands your experience of the game. It's already sort of like this with the season pass, where you're getting something once a month and it's relatively substantial. Can we supplement it by essentially converting Light into live? The whole experience is live. And then, yeah, maybe after a year, I publish it as a book. Like there's a year one experience book, maybe that has all the seasons and prompts and stuff like that. Or Jeremy was mentioning like just make it like this really badass art filled book. I don't know what the physical book would look like, but that's the idea. And so I want to do like these weekly strikes with prompts and unique loot that get people wanting to come play. They want to come be part of the community. Obviously, it's going to require some updating, but that's cool to me. The patchability is very neat. I could see this being incorporated as essentially a way to supplement and make the season pass more enticing to folks. But I could also just seeing it be part of the core light experience, and season passes are their own other thing. Like there's just I had to consider like just like Spencer. Remember, fragmenting is tricky. It's tricky if I break it up into like a million different things that you have to buy or support, right? It's easier if I can streamline it into either a singular thing or two things. So just something to keep in mind. So that's it. That's my first sort of like brainstorm dive of Light Live. I'm curious to know what folks think. You can leave comments in the section below. That's not a great place to discuss things. I'm going to leave the link to the Discord in the comment thing in the description below so that you can join, and that's way easier to talk to me or talk to other people who are I've already shared this stuff with. So join the Discord or follow me on Twitter and chat with me there. But I'm really curious to know what people think about Light Live. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to do my brain blast with Jeremy soon to talk about live RPGs in general. So that's it. Hopefully we'll be doing another one of these soon. Bye.